Now I can see it.
It's very hard to
But
see.
you,
Recording in progress.
okay, folks, we're going to get started. So if everybody could take their seats. Okay. Good evening, everyone. It is Wednesday, May 20th, and we are meeting as a committee of the whole. Please be aware that this meeting is being both audio and video recorded. At the start of the meeting remotely, I don't see any remote participation. Would you like me to recognize who's here in the room? Not necessary. Okay. If I could ask everybody to please mute the speakers and microphones on laptops and iPhones to reduce microphone feedback. And then finally, our president and our clerk and I wanted to remind you all that if you are planning to offer budget resolutions, please email them to the full city council. The clerk's office will compile, distribute, and manage these as they make their way through the system. If you do submit them early, that helps us all to be more organized. And I will tell you that we are extremely light on resolutions. So if there are those of you out there that are thinking about it, it really would be helpful to know and plan and to not be surprised last minute. This evening, we are here to take up one item, which is 152-26, a request to increase the retiree COLA base. This is a request docketed by the Newton Retirement Board and the mayor to increase the retiree cost of living adjustment base from $15,000 to $16,000 in fiscal year 27 to $17,000 in fiscal year 28 and to $18,000 in fiscal year 29 to be effective July 1st, 2026, as voted on by the Newton Retirement Board on April 14th of this year. We are joined by our CFO, Maureen Lemieux, who I think is going to start us off with the presentation. We are also joined by the chair of the Retirement Board, Tom Lopez, and I see Kelly Byrne from the Retirement Board, and of course our comptroller, Steve Curley, as well. And we have our COO, Josh Morse, as well, who, in addition to his role as COO, also participated with Ms. Lemieux, with me, and with Councillor Bixby, among others, on the pension working group that the mayor convened at the start of his term. So, Ms. Lemieux, if I could turn it over to you. And then I am expecting that after we hear from Ms. Lemieux, we're going to have an opportunity to hear from Chair Lopez as well. And then obviously lots of opportunity for questions and discussion. Over to you, Ms. Lemieux. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. If I may share my screen, I've put together what I believe will be a fairly short presentation, but some of the members of the City Council have been very involved either over the years talking about COLA base increases or more recently with all of the work that we have done, but others have not been as involved. So I wanted to make sure that everybody was beginning this dialogue with the same basic knowledge as far as what the numbers are and what the implications are with what's in front of you tonight. So if I may share my screen. Are you able to see that?
We are.
Okay, so. Okay. All right, and you can see that?
Yes, we can.
Okay, so let me just, all right, so thank you. So, so what are we going to cover tonight? As I said, I will try to be fairly brief. I'll talk about the docket item itself, the vote of the Retirement Board, what you are going to be asked to vote on, the analysis of the cost of the COLA base increase, and the analysis of the budget relief that will be provided by extending the full funding of the retirement system to 2035. So the docket number itself, the docket number, as the chair has just read, is the Newton Retirement Board and His Honor the Mayor requesting approval of the Newton Retirement Board's increase to the retiree cost of living adjustment base from cost of living adjustment from $15,000 in as it currently is to 16, then to 17, and then to 18, pursuant to the General Laws, Chapter 32, Section 103J, and such increase to become effective July 1st of 26. As the chair just said, the reality is, what are we really asking for? What that boils down to is whether or not you support raising the retirees' COLA base from the current $15,000 per year to $16,000 for fiscal 27, to $17,000 for fiscal 28, and to $18,000 for fiscal 29, where it will stay without further action by your body. Okay, so to be able to make this decision, the first thing that I thought was important is that everyone understand what exactly the COLA base is that we talk about. And so if we have a person who retired in 2025, let's say that their beginning pension was $40,000. In 2026, their cost of living increase was voted as a 3% increase by the Retirement Board. they can, by statute, the retirement board sets the COLA increase up to a 3% increase for our retirees. However, you as a body are the ones who set the COLA base that percentage is calculated on. And so that percentage right now is $15,000. It doesn't matter if this retiree, went out at a $40,000 pension. The COLA base is only $15,000. And so in fiscal 26, they would have received a 3% increase on $15,000 of their pension. So for 26, they would have made $40,450. That 3% COLA actually translates into a 1.13% increase in their entire pension. For fiscal 27, if you do not take this action tonight, if you vote against the request, the COLA base would stay at $15,000. So for fiscal 27, this person would again get 3% of $15,000 for another $450 next year. That stays the same. Each year, if there is no change to the COLA base, the person gets 3% on $15,000, regardless of what their pension is, assuming that it's at least $15,000. If it's lower than $15,000, they only get 3% on whatever their pension is. You can see by looking at these what the real increase is on their total pension. You can see how quickly our retirees, when we talk about people being on a fixed income, you can see how our retirees, although our pensions are good, and I wouldn't say anything otherwise, the way that the pension increases is absolutely people fall behind inflation and everything else very quickly. So what are we asking for tonight? We're asking to have the COLA base increase to $16,000 for 27, $17,000 for 28, $18,000 for 29. What does that do to our same person that retired in 25? You can see in each year with the 3% by the COLA base increasing, they do a little better. They get to a point that by fiscal 29, instead of receiving $450 as their COLA each year, they would now be receiving $540. That $540 would stay in place. That $18,000 would stay in place again until your board ever takes an action to change that. And again, you can see they do a little bit better with a total cost of living increase, but not a lot. In this, I wanted to also show you what happens to a Social Security pensioner. Our employees and retirees do not get Social Security unless they have 40 quarters of work from employment that otherwise would have counted for Social Security. So if they come to us mid-career, they may have been working in private industry for 10, 15, 20 years even. Those people qualify for Social Security. But our people who came to us when they were fairly young, which is certainly typically our police officers, firefighters, are many of our employees throughout the city who came to us who were young do not get Social Security. When you earn Social Security, when your COLA is declared, it's on the full amount that you earn. And so if a person had gone out in 25 with a pension, a Social Security pension, if you will, each year their 3% would be on whatever their pension was. And so you can see pretty quickly our people that are at that are currently at a $15,000 COLA base, in 5 years would be at $42,700. With what we are proposing, they would be at $43,060. And if they happen to instead have been getting Social Security, they would be over $47,000. So I think the first question that you probably all want to ask yourselves is $18,000, because that's clearly where we want to land, is $18,000 a lot of money? Is it much more money than other retirement systems? How does it fare when we talk about the other retirement systems across the Commonwealth? Well, there are 104 retirement systems in Massachusetts. for those systems who have adopted a COLA base that is greater than 15,000, 49 of the 104 communities have adopted a COLA base greater than $15,000, or 47% of all communities and all retirement systems currently have a COLA base that is higher than the COLA base that we use for our employees. For a COLA base that is $18,000 or greater, and so 18 is what we are asking you for, there are 26 communities, or 25% of the retirement systems across the state have a COLA base that is either 18,000 or greater. So I certainly wanted to make sure that you understood where we sit when we retirement systems. What does it cost for this COLA base? Because obviously there is a cost to the city and the retirement system. Our unfunded liability, the last one that we have, we're expecting to get our new unfunded liability any day now. That will be effective as of January 1st of 26, but the last one that we have is January 1st of 2025. It was $287 million in change. Increasing the COLA base to up to 18,000 by the third year increases the unfunded liability from the 287 to 295, or $8.3 million. $8.3 million sounds like a tremendous amount of money, and so I wanted everyone to know that that's actually a 2.9% increase to the unfunded liability, and that is for all of the people who are in our system, our current retirees. We also have what is called the normal cost that we have to pay each year. That is the city's portion of the retirement for all of the active employees. That cost would increase also because when all of us as actives, or anyone who's participating and ultimately vested in the pension system, would ultimately qualify for that $18,000 COLA base, that will end up costing us an additional approximately $250,000 per year on our normal cost. That cost will really live on ad infinitum, I would say. So it's about a $250,000 annual increase. We then took a look at what would the budget relief be with moving the funding schedule to 2035 at a 6.9% investment return. That's what we currently have based all of our numbers on, has been a 6.9% investment return. And so for an apples to apples comparison, so that you could see what the budget relief would be, I thought it was important to show you this calculation. I know there are a tremendous amount of numbers on this page. The most important column is the one that says budget relief. For fiscal 27, as you all may recall, when we did the budget presentation, we told you that we were utilizing $5 million of budget relief in crafting our fiscal 27 budget. The reason that this number looks a little bit higher is because I wanted to make sure that I was showing you numbers that were consistent with anything that you may see that's either published online from our actuaries. The reality is that the city, that the general fund pays about 95% of whatever the funding schedule is. So where it appears that the budget relief is 5.467, it's actually only 95% of that number, and that's why I talk about it as being much closer to $5 million. But I didn't want people to be confused with my numbers here tonight being different from anything that you would find from our actuaries. So if all things were equal, if we kept the same type of a funding schedule that we have had for our 2032 full funding, and if we kept that at a 6.9% investment return, these are the relief numbers that we would see through fiscal 32. 33, because we would then be fully funded, it would be much less of a budget relief than it would have been. And you can see in fiscals 33, 34, and 35, we would be spending much more money than we are in our current funding schedule. What this is doing is taking that funding schedule and elongating it by 3 years to a 2035 schedule. Now, the retirement board, when they took their vote, and I think I'm not even sure if it's actually final for the whole funding schedule or if that's going to happen at their next meeting. And I'm sure Tom, our chair of the retirement board, will be able to address that. But where I believe they are going to land is they are going to become a little bit more conservative with the investment return assumptions, which is absolutely reasonable. And in their schedule, I believe they are going to add a buffer to their schedule. So the numbers do not look quite as promising as the slide that I just showed you. However, there will be plenty of time for dialogue between all of us and the retirement board. As time moves on, we will understand whether or not 6.75% investment return is too high or too low. We will also understand if the buffer that this schedule generates, again, is too high or too low. There will certainly be market fluctuations throughout the years, and we will all have plenty of time to understand where these numbers are going. But you can certainly see on the budget, again, on the budget relief column, what this does for our budget. This, as I said on the evening when we presented the budget, this is not a panacea. We have taken that $5,000 of relief this year. That is how we were able to put the budget together that we did, with a historical, unprecedented increase for the school budget, while we had healthy increases on the city side as well. With that, Madam Chair, what I just want to remind everybody, after all of those numbers, the key thing that you are voting on tonight is the increase of the retiree COLA base. Setting the funding schedule is completely under the purview of the retirement board, and that's why I say there'll be plenty of time for dialogue over the years as we move closer and closer to that number. If we sell the pension obligation bond anywhere along the way, that will also change the dialogue. But the pension obligation bond has nothing to do with what's in front of you tonight. And so what we would ask is that you approach this conversation tonight almost as if the pension obligation bond doesn't even exist, because that's on a completely different, somewhat parallel track, but completely different track. So what we're talking about tonight is raising the retiree COLA base and extending, and then ultimately extending the funding schedule to 2035. And with that, Madam Chair, we will all be more than happy. I know we're going to hear from Tom Lopez, the chair of the retirement board, but then we will all be happy to answer any questions. So if you would like, I can certainly stop sharing my screen at this point, if I know how.
Thanks, Ms. Lee. I'm sure we'll want to put some of those numbers back up, but first, it would be great if we could have a closer view of all the participants in the screen so that we can.
Exactly.
Yep. Okay. So you took it down. Okay, great. Chair Lopez, we'd love to hear from you.
Thank you very much, Chair. Appreciate everybody's tonight and having us here. I'm not going to belabor all of you with a lot of the numbers that Maureen has presented. She has done a very good job, very efficient job of laying it all out. For me, I just would like to give you a little just reminder of history. Wasn't too long ago, of the 104 systems, Newton was one of the 7 that still was at $12,000 for the COLA. It wasn't until 3 or 4 years ago, working with the former Fuller administration with Maureen and the city council, we were able to finally make some headway on the COLA. And this, again, gives us an opportunity to make some significant strides and something that is pretty much long overdue. I do not need to remind anybody of the increased costs, daily living and expense in Massachusetts and in this country. And our retirees are further exposed to it because of their limited income. And as Maureen pointed out, that those that are on Social Security they see the full benefit on their full dollar value. Here, they're only seeing it at 15,000 right now, and hopefully with your work and passage, they will see an $18,000 increase, up to 18,000 in the near future, which will play a role. It is a significant role. I've already heard from numerous retirees who've heard that this is being discussed and docketed, and they are greatly appreciative of the efforts that is going forward, and they hope that this passes because it does have some meaning to it. It does have value. So I want to briefly just touch on the vote. The board did vote, contingent on the passage of the COLA and everything, that the funding schedule will be 2035. Annual appropriation will be 3.6, and I'll touch on that in a little bit. But our investment return is lower to 6.75. Okay. In our discussions with the administration, Maureen and the mayor, they originally wanted to do a flat fee, a flat number annual appropriation, knowing that the board has always been consistent and strong in their support of trying to get the system funded as quickly as possible, because it does leave us some leeway in case we have bad years, fluctuations, things that we need to maneuver. So the board felt they were a little uncomfortable just having a flat appropriation. So we had some different scenarios run, and we came down and we felt that a 3.6% would give us a little bit of a buffer during that period of time, but also allow us to push it out to 2035 with comfort, with knowing that we have an end date. The goal is to get this funded for our retirees and for the city's fiscal health. We really and truly are driven to get this done as quickly as possible, but being fiduciary responsible and understanding the constraints that it's putting on the city as well. So I just want to remind you, just really impress upon you that $18,000 is nothing to joke about, but in reality, it has a significant increase and an impact on people's lives. Our retirees, we have many retirees that are on a $40,000 pension. That is really not a lot. We have a lot of our older employees that are still on the pension system that will see very minimal increase, but it does have value. So I would strongly, strongly implore upon you to pass this, to help our retirees continue the work that we've done as a retirement board with the administration and the city council over the last several years, working with plans to try to help provide relief to the city where needed, which this clearly does in the operating budget, but at the same time maintain that goal of taking care of our retirees, ensuring that we're fiduciary responsible for our system. And tonight's vote will go a long way in doing that. So I really, truly implore upon all of you to pass this COLA. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Lopez. And I want to recognize that we've been joined online by Councillor Wright and Councillor Baker. Anything further from those on the screen before I turn to our councillors and start taking comments and questions? Okay, I don't see anything else right now. Councillor Albright, why don't you start us off?
Thank you. So first a question. The 3.6% that Mr. Lopez spoke about, is that, I mean, I know we've been increasing our contribution by 6.9%. Is that a new number for that, or what is that 3.6%?
That's my understanding is essentially, we used to be 9.6% and then we were 6.9%.
Yep.
And that now we would be 3.6%. Mr. Lopez, is that your understanding of what you're expecting as well?
That is correct. That will be a 3% reduction in your annual appropriation.
Okay, well, that's fabulous. That's good. And Ms. Lemieux, thank you for explaining or comparing our retirement to the Social Security retirement. How does this compare to the teacher's retirement? Do you happen to know that?
I do not.
Okay.
I think it would actually be a helpful moment to clarify, particularly for people who haven't been through this process before, that the teacher's retirement system is separate than this system. So we are not talking about teacher's retirement. Ms. Lemieux and Ms. Byrne and Mr. Lopez, you can correct me, but the folks from the school side who would be included in this, and there are some, like some of the administrators and principals and things like that. Is that accurate?
The aides, the secretaries and the custodians. And that ends up being, I want to say, about 800 individuals. It's quite
So
a large number.
not the principals and not the central office folks?
No.
Okay.
So I just want to say that the addition of to 2035 and the lowering of the annual increase to 3.6 is huge. And regardless of the pension obligation bonds or not, those two things make a huge difference to what the city can do, and it will save the city more money to be able to use on other things besides paying off its pension and every year. And so I'm appreciative of that decision, those decisions. And it seems perfectly reasonable to me to raise the COLA levels. I mean, it's hard enough to get along with prices going up these days that it feels very right to have this COLA base go up to 18,000. I think 18 is the top. Is that correct? Yeah, so I'm in favor of that.
Yes,
Thank you.
18,000 will be the top number in 3 years.
Thank you.
Thank you. I see Councillor Greenberg. And that's all for now.
Thank you, Chair. Ms. Lemieux, could you explain what the city's normal cost was? I wasn't clear about that number.
Yes, certainly, Counselor. The normal cost is what the city pays its percentage for all of us who are active participants in the retiree system. And so I believe, and we do have Kelly Byrne, who spent, I think, at least 40 years of her life working in our retirement office. She may know the exact percentage. I believe it's somewhere between 4 and 5%. It's actually less than what the city's percentage would be if the city was paying into Social Security. I don't know if Kelly knows that number exactly, but that's what it is. It's the city's share of the retirement system.
The funding schedule says it's about a 2.9% rate.
Ms. Byrne, did you want to add anything else to that of what makes up the normal cost, or what Ms. Lemieux was referencing in her answer?
No, I think the number Steve just quoted is correct.
Okay, thank you very much.
Councillor Lucas.
Thank you, Chair. Ms. Lemieux, I think it was 3 years ago, we did this very same thing about increasing COLA. Just refresh our memory. Did we go up from 12 and do 13, 14, 15,000? Is that right?
That's exactly what we did. And we would have had to have increased the fund at that time. That funding schedule was still at 2030, I believe. But because of market fluctuations, we were going to have to extend that to 2031. And so we went to the retirement board and asked them to consider extending it to 2032. And for that 1 year, really what was a 1 year difference at that time, they asked us to then implement a COLA base that went from 12 to 15, and we did it then. We went 1,000 per year. It makes a difference in what we end up with as the unfunded the increase to the unfunded liability, whether or not we do it over a 3-year period or we do it all in 1 year.
Okay, thank you. So this is essentially almost the same thing we're doing now as we did 3 years ago. Is that correct?
Yes, except that they have voted to extend it by 3 years.
Okay, thank you. I'm all set, Chair.
Thank you. Do we have other comments or questions? Councillor Leary.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just want to make a comment. First, I really appreciated the presentation by Mrs. Lemieux, and I really am grateful of the hard work that went into this decision. I think it's a win-win. It gives the city more flexibility with our budget, and I think the increase is only fair. And I strongly support the $18,000. with costs going up so high, it's just been so much harder on people on such a limited income. And these were the city's, police and fire and custodians and hard workers. So I fully support it. And thank you for all the hard work that went into this.
Counselor Silber.
Hi, thanks. A couple of just quick, I guess, technical questions. The first is the 8.3 million or 8 million is the net present value of the forward cost based on a 6.75% return. Is that correct?
I want to say, I think it probably is. It is the increase to what we have as a liability. And so, so I think it is the net present value of the future costs. I think that makes.
However, with just one clarification, Ms. Lemieux, that you tell me if I'm not thinking about this right, but that normal cost number, $250,000 per year,
Yes,
is
that's for
not
the,
baking in the net present value of that.
Okay.
correct.
Okay. Got it. And so the second question is, are we capped at a 3% COLA increase per year?
Yes, that's statutorily.
And that's be a home rule to change that. Is that correct? Or is it not changed at all? If you know.
I don't believe a home rule can change it. That's set by the state legislature. I think they would, I don't think they would allow a home rule petition. It would have to be statewide.
Got it. Thanks. And final question is, of the different methods to change retiree pension, were other methods, and apologies if you've already talked about this in another committee, were other methods looked at, and was this decided upon for a specific reason? I mean, I know it's more common for municipalities to do this, but just out of curiosity.
What we did do is we worked very closely with our actuary. We probably asked Siegel, our consultants, to give us, I want to say probably no less than 15 different scenarios of increases to the COLA base and changes in the funding schedule. When all was said, and I mean, that's basically what we can do with the retirement system. And when all was said and done, we settled on this being perhaps the best of both, most appropriate for the retirees, and a very good way to have budget relief without pushing and asking the retirement board to go out further than 2035. The POB, as you know, as you've already all voted on, is a completely different animal, if you will, that is available to us to address our pension costs. That we are pursuing also, but we really thought that it was extremely important to try to move both scenarios forward, because we could never have gotten the POB in time to impact the fiscal 27 budget.
Great. Thanks so much.
Other comments and questions? Is there a motion on the, Councillor Albright?
So I will make a motion that we approve. It's the COLAs that we're approving tonight. The COLA changes
Yes.
up to 18.
Do you want to put that on the screen, that last slide, Ms. Lemieux, that shows the, I don't know that you need to. I mean, it's exactly as spelled out in the terms of the docket item. So all we are voting on is increasing that COLA base number. What comes in terms of the actual numbers of the funding schedule, that will all be determined by the retirement board as an outgrowth of what is passed here, as well as what Siegel, the actuary, comes back with in terms of our unfunded liability, what investment returns are over time. So we have a motion to approve by Councillor Albright. Any further discussion before we vote? Seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, that passes. I don't know how many we have present right now.
I was an aye. I'm sorry I didn't hit my
speak soon enough.
Thank you, Counselor Wright. So we're 23-0. Thank you all very much. Thank you for the hard work that you do every day. To our retirement board members who came tonight, we really appreciate you and all that you do. And we will be speaking to you again. Thanks and good night.
I want to say thank you to everyone and thank you for your time.
Thank you all.
Good night.
Night.
Good night.